Ooh! Greetings friends and welcome to Let's Make a 2D Arcade Fighter. This is our first video, and the first things we're going to work on is just establishing our background, doing stuff with the camera, and then getting some basic movement and controls working. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do is clone the default cube that we've got here. But we're actually just going to quickly put on a grid snap, clone this, and then rotate it so that we've got it nice and central. You can use the floor guide to make it nice and in the middle. Alrighty. Then the next thing I'm going to do is go to gadgets. Just going to minimize this and go there and choose our little blank basic puppet. Now we do this for scale, but also that we can see, so we can see where our camera is. Alrighty. Let's go to gadgets, cameras and lighting, and we're going to choose ourselves a camera. We can put this on the floor so we can go up directly from there and see what is up. So it's fairly central. Okay, cool. I'll maybe go down just a bit. Alrighty. That looks to be pretty good. You can move them so that they're a little bit more central, if that works for you, just in the beginning of the fight, as it were. Yeah, but that looks good. Alrighty. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that our camera stays on the whole time, because if we go by default and we possess our little dude and he walks out of the camera, it's going to turn off and it's going to just follow their own default camera. So what we're going to do to make sure that our camera stays on is we're going to go to gadgets, sensors and input, and we're just going to choose a nice switch and we're going to connect it here. Sweet. And this way, whoops, what happens is even if he walks off, it's still going to stay there. Woohoo! Alrighty. Now the next thing we're going to do is just establish some limitations, which will be kind of like the boundary of our area. So with our grid snap still turned on, we're going to clone this block that we've got over here. And we're just going to put it, doesn't have to come out so far, but we're just going to put it over here. So that, let's have a look to see. We'll just possess this dude. Alrighty. Maybe we can move it over a little bit. Move it over just a smidge. And then we're going to go to it and make it invisible. So go to its sculpture, physical properties, and we'll turn invisibility off. Alrighty. Now if we possess our dude, he goes to the border of it, and he's there. But one problem is the movement is just totally not right for a 2D fighter. So we're going to do a few changes. We're going to go to our puppet. We're going to go to their physical properties. Well, sorry, we're actually going to go to the overall movement. We're going to set run speed to 0, so they only really move with walk speed. And we're going to set their turn speed to 0 as well. Then we're going to go 2D movement. Okay, cool. Now let's see the difference. So we're going to go in, we move forward, and we move forward. If we move backwards, we don't turn around, we literally move backwards, just like in an arcade fighter. We've also got a boundary here. And just to go back to fixing that, I'm just going to turn off preview invisibility and move this maybe just one or two more spots to the left. And now if we try, it's kind of like here's the boundary. The boundary is, it looks like it's at the edge of the screen. And then we can do the exact same thing for the other side. Oops. Make sure to clone it and not just move it. Alrighty. It should be around there. Let's just do a quick test. That's what we're doing at the moment, just testing it out, tweaking, seeing what works for us, and what looks the best. Okay, that's almost there. We'll just move it maybe one more to the right, and then we're good. Okay, that looks perfect. One thing that's just going to save us a headache in the future is just we're going to go to our puppet. We're going to go into the controller sensor. And then we're going to go in the important properties, we're going to go force possession. So that way, whenever we do we go into play mode, we're already going to be possessing the puppet. So we don't have to go every time and possess them. Alrighty. Sweet. now we're going to make our puppet look like they're actually in fight mode. And so what we're going to do for that is, we're going to look at our puppet and just go scope into them and change their default position. First we'll just want to turn off the old grid snap so we can be a little bit more free. And what we want to do here is just give them a look like they're ready for battle. This will be their default pose. You want to give them a little bit of character. And speaking of character, if you have multiple characters in your fighting game, of course they're each going to have their own different pose and all these sorts of things. So this is quite an important step. Their default pose is also important for because this is where their attacks all come from, you know. So if you do a punch, it's going to be from this position, or a kick, it's going to be from this position. So it's important to get this looking quite nice. Whether it looks quite nice right now, yeah, that's a matter of opinion. But here we are, we've got our nice fighting pose. Alrighty. That looks, if not good, at least acceptable. The next thing I want to show you is how to make your puppet move with not only the analog stick, but also with the arrow keys. Because I feel like that's a shout out to the original arcade games. You would have sort of arrow keys. So I'm just going to show you how to do that now. So what we're going to do is, we're going to go into our controller sensor with L1 and square. Then we're going to go to page 3 so we can see all our directional D-pad buttons. Then we're going to go into gadgets, logic and processing, and then we're going to go to a combiner. It gives us a plus and a minus, or a positive and a negative. And we're going to go, right is going to go into the positive, and left is going to go into the negative. And both of these are going to connect to the walk in our puppet interface. So we're going to connect that there. Let's have a look. So not going on the analog, but on the D-pad. If I press right, I'm going forward. If I press left, I'm going backwards. Or right and left. Moving along that x-axis. Alrighty. And if I try the analog, it still works. Cool. So that just gives your players a little bit of freedom. And it's a little bit more intuitive for anyone who picks it up. Alrighty. Now the next thing we want to do is to give our character a jump. And of course Dreams is great. It's actually got a default jump built in. But the convention at the moment is that X is the jump button. And in a lot of the old school arcade games, it wasn't actually X, but up on the D-pad. So I'm going to delete this connection here. I'm just going to press triangle on it. Then I'm going to go back to page 3 of our controller sensor. And then up on the D-pad, the up button, I'm going to connect to jump. But not only that, we want to give our players a chance to actually do it with the analog as well, depending on what they prefer. So that's easy, but it is a little bit more complicated. What we do is we're going to get down a splitter, and we're going to connect the left stick to the input, and we'll see it splits into X and Y. We want the Y, so in other words, the analog going up and down. But if we just connect it like this, what's going to happen is whether you move the analog up or down, it's going to jump. And we want it to be only when it's going up. So what we're going to do is put in another splitter. And we're going to connect Y to the input here. And we're going to go negative is going to make you jump. So now if I press up on the left analog stick, I'm going to jump. Why is it negative and not positive? Well, it might just be that like the y-axis is inverted. So if you make it go positive, that's going to be moving the left analog stick down. Yeah, it is a little bit counterintuitive, but if you just think of the y-axis being inverted, then it kind of makes sense. Alrighty. So now that we've got our jump, which is going to work with up on the D-pad like that, or up on the left analog, now we want to actually add in a little bit of a crouch. So for the crouch, we're actually going to have to make our own custom animation. What we're going to do for that is we're going to go animate and create a little keyframe. Then we're going to go into our puppet and we're going to lower their hips, or their pelvis rather, over here quite a bit. Cha-cha-ching. You might want to move the toe so it has a bit more of a crouchy look. Whatever you want to do for this part, it really depends on you, what you want to do for the particular animation. You can also lower their body ever so slightly. So for example, if this crouch was to like duck a high attack or something like that, a high kick, something along those lines. And you want to make it like a fairly sizable amount, you know, because if there's an attack, you don't want to just be like crouch a little bit, or if you want to, or if crouch is going to be allowing you to open up to a new set of attacks, like if there's a punch and then there's like a crouching punch, then yeah, you want it to you want to make sure that you've got like a nice animation for that. We're gonna name this just so that we are in the know and we are keeping ourselves organized. We're gonna go crouch, alrighty, and then we're gonna make it so that in classic fashion, down on the D-pad is going to cause you to crouch, alrighty. But then we also wanted to work with the analog, so luckily we've already set up our left analog that we know what's happening with the y-axis, and we're going to make it so that the positive value, in other words, when you move the left analog down, it's also going to activate the crouch. So we press up on the D-pad, down on the D-pad, up on the left analog, down on the left analog. There you are, friends. Another thing you might want to do actually with the crouch, depending on the kind of 2D fighter you're looking for, often when you press down in a 2D fighter you can't move anymore. The easiest way to do this in your game is to record, in other words, go into this keyframe again and make sure you're recording. Then you're going to scope out, press L1 and square on your puppet and make it that their movement is set to 0. This way, when we play, I'm going to press down on the D-pad and I can't actually move. I'm pressing the analog. I'm now going on the arrows as well, and there just isn't movement. So there you are, friends. At the moment, what we figured out is how to add in some movement, adding in a jump and a crouch, and it's fully usable with the D-pad or with the analog, depending on whichever the players prefer. And we've also set up our boundaries. We've set up our basic camera, which is always going to be working. And that's all there is to it, friends. Alrighty. So let's try it once again. Moving. There's one boundary. Moving again. There's another boundary. Crouch. Jump. That was all with the D-pad. And now with the analog, exact same. Down and up. Alrighty. If you want to add in a double jump, friends, just as a little extra bit, all you have to do is go into the blank puppet, go to its overall movement, and then if the double jump height is set to 0, that counts as not having a double jump. But if you increase it to any amount, you will gain a double jump. Alrighty, and another little tweak I'm going to have is with min jump height, I'm going to make that maximum. I'm going to make it 100%. So what this does is, if you tap the up button, it's only going to jump like by default it's 25%. So if you just tap it, you'll only jump a quarter of the max height. But I want it to be, even if you tap it as opposed to holding it down, you're going to jump the full height. And you're going to have a little bit of an extra jump if you press it again. Alrighty, so let's try it out. Cha-cha. So now it's like if someone uses a big, Hadouken attack, Street Fighter style, you can jump over it, just like that. Or if they do a nice high attack, you can duck under it. So there you are, friends. That's all there is to adding in some jumps, adding in some nice 2D movement, and adding in a crouch. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next one. What we're going to be doing in that video is going over some punches and some combos. So I hope you look forward to that. I sure do. I'm really keen to get started on this next Let's Make series with you, and I can't wait to see what you make, friends. Alrighty. Thanks so much for joining me, and I shall catch you next time. Peace out.